Hi, people. It's been quite a while since we have done a broadcast with an author. So I'm glad to be back here today with architect and author Mr. Sangeet Sharma. He has a master's in sustainable architecture and was awarded the doctorate by the University of Berkeley for his thesis and study of architectural aesthetics, which eventually went on to become a book. He works in a firm called SD Sharma and Associates in Chandigarh, which is quite well known in the circles, architectural circles. And Mr. Sangeet Sharma has also received numerous awards for his works in architecture and is widely respected. He has also authored four books on architecture, one poetry book, and today we are here to talk about his latest release, Castles in the Air. So I hope you all can see the book nicely there. Welcome, Mr. Sangeet Sharma. Thank you for joining us today and for taking out the time from your what I assume to be a very busy schedule. I've been going through your website and
Hi, Jennifer.
I'm really glad that you have taken out some time to join us here today. So I'll just hand it over to you. Why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself so that people get to know you better?
Yeah, hi everybody. Um, I'm Sangeet Sharma, and uh, I'm going to speak about my recent book, which is called "The Castles in the Air," and it was a beautiful journey. And this particular book, this one is David chewing gum, which goes fat, and so that therefore the name "Castles in the Air." You know, we architects basically, the book is a satire on architecture. We have lofty ideas, and we think so much. We want to create something very nice, very big, and always are in a dreamy state of mind. So I just realized that somebody must speak what goes into our mind, into our heart, and what goes into the profession. So based on those narratives, I wrote this book. It's called Castles in the Air, and it's misadventures of a profession. So not really adventures, but misadventures of a profession. So combined all that became this book.
Okay. So I have been going through your website and you have a very in-depth website about your profession as an architect and as an author separately. So there's quite a lot of details out there for anybody who's interested to look you up. But just for fun, tell us few things that not many people know about you and it's not available out there on the website.
Oh goodness, yeah, okay. Actually, the website is quite revealing, and it speaks everything. I do various things in various moods and modes. So it's a creativity all around. If I'm not designing, I'm writing, and if I'm not writing, I'm playing guitar and singing. And
Wow.
if that doesn't happen, then I do some painting because it's all cumulative arts creativity which I do. So I think one of the aspects which is not enlisted on the website is some of my music which is there. And I recently, I also performed at Tagore Theatre. Very soon we'll
Wow.
be putting up some videos of the songs also. And
Okay.
basically, it's all creativity.
Okay. So, tell us, like, was it your childhood dream to become an architect? I know your father is an architect as well.
Yeah.
So, was it your childhood dream?
I I think I was always uh, uh, taken towards the path of becoming an architect. I don't think I had a choice. I don't think I even considered any other profession. I don't think I even thought of treading onto other paths. So I believe I was made for architecture as a profession, but passions were different. So profession and passion is balanced.
Okay, that's great. So, since we are talking about architecture, the first thing, as a person who knows very little about architecture other than admiring castles and forts, the thing that comes to my mind is nowadays everybody is trying to be very environmental conscious. There are putting solar panels on their buildings, and I saw some city has become green city by planting gardens on their rooftops. So, as an architect who knows the ins and outs of this world, how concerned do you think that an architect should be about the environmental and the social sustainability in their buildings that they're creating?
No, I think it's our not just a job but responsibility to be socially concerned and to be conscious of our environment, to save energy is a part of our training, is a part of our job. And if I'm not doing that rightly, I'm fooling myself and fooling the whole world. The energy is being depleted. We know the uh, deforestation is happening, and there is so much of Earth is getting warmer by every day. So the whole thing is a matter of concern, and it's the architects it's the architect's right and his job to understand all this. And I personally am very conscious. I'm I do my buildings which are sustainable. I plan my buildings in terms of green buildings. We have won many awards for that, and you can see one behind just behind me. There's one
Yeah.
which says that this is a green building, and we take pride in saying that we are energy conscious people. We take pride in saying that we are architects who are concerned about the planet.
Okay. I was actually about to tell our viewers about your uh, award for best sustainable project that is listed on your website. So that is actually how I decided to ask you this question.
Good.
So, so how does it feel like not everybody is as responsible, in any market, not just in architecture, in any profession, not everybody is as responsible. So,
Yeah.
do you always have that consciousness in you that every project has to be sustainable? The, it is a conscious effort that you're putting in every project.
Yes, I think that's part of our training also, but consciously we need to walk that path. You see, there are two aspects of my profession. Buildings have to look beautiful, essentially, and whatever be the nature of the building must look beautiful. And secondly, they must be sustainable. They must be eco-friendly, and eco-friendliness comes through our sustained effort. And I think if you're not deliberately trying to make sustainable architecture, uh, then whole of the professional education is farce. It's a myth. It doesn't happen. I mean, we are not trained to cast slabs. We are not trained to make walls, bare walls. We are trained to make meaningful spaces. We are trying to make something which is essentially responsible for the society and for the human beings. So yes, it is a conscious effort.
Yeah.
Dada?
And thank you for that. Those of us who are conscious about where we are heading to, from all of us, thank you for the conscious effort that you're putting in into your projects. Okay,
Good.
now on a lighter note, can
Yep.
you tell me a few structures or architectural buildings that you personally admire for its quality and design?
Um, Great buildings people make, Devdata, and I think even to achieve that level is difficult. But some of the buildings which I really like in the world is the Lotus Temple in Delhi. and it's very beautiful.
Okay.
The whole ambience is beautiful, and Notre Dame in Paris is wonderful. I think the same spirit lies in old building, and the same spirit lies in a modern building. So the values are the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a 100-year-old building or just 2 years old building. If they have the same values, they all look beautiful. And the great buildings are always admirable because they are timeless. For example, Taj Mahal is always beautiful. It will remain beautiful because it is timeless. It has got that magic, that values in it, that it will always remain beautiful and sustainable.
Is it a side effect of your profession that you look at all the buildings with a critical eye, or you have just at a stage where you can just take a chill pill
Uh,
about structures that you don't like as much?
um, no, we are, once we become trained architects, the critical eye does open. But I think more than the critical eye, it is the poetic eye which we must open. We must see a building with a poetic eye, and that's the beauty of it. We need to see the beauty of a building. The functionality is always there. Everybody's planning for a building to function, but I think the poetry in it is missed by many. So that is where we need to catch and make up.
Okay. So, what is your ultimate goal when it comes to your work?
Ah, to make buildings which make you very happy, which makes the person who stays in it very happy, and it makes me very happy. When I create something nice, it's like playing a beautiful music. If I sing beautifully, if I play a tune, if I connect with the audience, so that happiness which I give you or the world, that happiness will come back to me. So it's a performer audience relation in all my activities. It's simply a performance audience relation. So that connection has to be established. That's my aim.
Okay. So, now let's come to your other avatar, that of an author. How did that happen? Was that also planned, or was that also something that eventually happened to you?
Um, I think I always meddled with words right from beginning, from my childhood. And this poetry book which you're talking about, Devdata,
Yeah.
was written about 20 years ago.
Wow.
Just imagine, yeah, those and those poems were never edited. Even today, when I realize that I must pick it up and browse through, I say that I have matured so much. Can I improve a line? No, the poetic value is the same. So I think once I grew up and then I started dabbling with words, I realized that I could write more on profession, articles about buildings. I started like that. I deliberated myself into more practical kind of writing, and I wrote like, architectural aesthetics. But then somewhere down the line, that seriousness uh, dwindled, and I realized that I don't want to make people, you know, think and brood while reading my books. They must feel nice and happy and smile. I mean, we are not here to teach something to people. Let people enjoy. People must enjoy reading. So I started working on this satire. So that's how the writer in me grew.
So this Castles in the Air comes after four other books about architecture, which I browsed through and seemed more like uh, non-fiction, a more take on the core ideas about architecture. So how has the experience been different from writing? Both are about your favorite profession, but how has the experience been writing something non-fiction and writing fiction finally after four non-fictions?
Writing non-fiction is like writing an essay, and you are talking something very straightforward. Um, it takes on a cover from A to Z in a structured fashion. But writing fiction, particularly this particular kind of fiction, where there is no storyline, there's no storyline, but there are characters which pop up and go. I call them A and D, appear and disappear, appear
Okay.
and disappear. So there are about 12 characters, very interesting. Each one is very interesting character, which I build them up. So in the process, this is whatever thing I talk about. Maybe if I'm talking about classrooms or teaching or learning, T square or any such thing. So these characters simply come up and they give their dialogues, talk something, and go back. So one doesn't need to keep a track of the story. It's not those 400 pages of a novel which you need to remember what happened before, what happened before. No, what no. So their characters are beautifully drawn, and they come and do their job and get away. But it is definitely a fiction. It is a story which keeps you entertained and amused.
Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritties of publishing. You have wide experience from poetry to non-fiction to fiction. Tell us something about your publishing journey that has stood out to you over the years also, and what has been the hardest part of getting published.
I think it's a every author's dream to be published after he or she has written a beautiful book. I think writing itself is very difficult. It's a process and needs a lot of energy and dedication and years of writing, revisions, re-revisions. Then comes publishing. Uh, well, my take on publishing is that I had been fortunate. I had been nicely involved with people around me. So my other books were published as well, and I dabbled into publishing also, self-publishing also. Not much of a problem. We have had a very good enthusiasm. We have had people supporting my book very nicely. We have Authors Channel doing its best to push the book, and I'm very thankful to the people who have supported me in this book. In short, publishing is something very nicely which I've had.
It's a good experience that you have had. Uh,
Truly, truly.
so there's something else I wanted to talk to you about these
Yeah,
images, the chapter markers that you have. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
was it drawn by you?
Yes, these are all my own sketches, and
Exams
you
and
know,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. And I was looking for some artists, and I wanted some artists to understand my mind and draw. But then one fine day, I said, "Okay, bring the pencil to me," and I did it myself. So all these drawings are by my own self. Probably that's why they're not very proportionate, but they're pretty good, and it
yeah,
conveys my mind. For
yeah.
example, a
I've
house design.
yeah.
It says the house design. It's a nightmare. So the nightmare is shown. You are simply crying in agony because planning of a house is very difficult. So the one sketch is giving you the complete background of what is going to be inside the chapter. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Something very nice.
Yes, it's really interesting. It's one of the
Yeah.
things that put a smile on my face every time I started a new chapter. I was actually looking
Yeah.
forward to the sketches themselves.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were quite interesting there. I can't
Quite
stop
right.
showing. uh,
Right.
Tell me, like, once I've read the book,
Yeah.
I think most of it came from your personal experiences, no doubt about
Yes.
that. But
True.
did you have to do some research for it? Because you were taking it in a fictional direction as well. Did you have to do some research for it?
Not really, Devdata. Not really. I mean, I have. These are all. personal undergoings, which I have not
I mean,
just
there's this
seen, felt.
there's there's this internship chapter where you talk about
Yeah.
how how an intern changes the IP and gets access to Facebook on Twitter and all. Have you
Yeah.
yourself done all those things then?
I have caught people doing it in my office. I've caught people doing it in my office. So that's how it became a part of the satire. So
Right.
I mean, these are all daily routines, and also when we talk with other people, when we discuss with other architects, so they give their experience, we share it. But more or less, most of it is my own taking and my own understanding. And even this, if
Yeah.
you've seen the state office, what happens to
Yes,
us
yes, yes, yes.
when we
It
go
was
to for
really
getting
like
snacks.
I'll tell you my personal experience. I don't read much of non-fiction, to be very
Yeah,
frank.
yeah.
And when Aruna gave me this book, I read the blurb and I thought this sounds more like non-fiction. I don't know whether I'm going to like it or not. And it sat on my shelf for quite some time before I picked it up.
Okay.
And once I picked it up, it was hilarious. It was
Oh God, I'm
hilarious.
so happy.
There were some instances that even I could relate to. I'm not an architect
Yeah,
student, but
right,
you know,
right.
the canteen scenes, the assignments and all, it happens
Right.
everywhere. So I
Yeah,
think a
I
lot,
know.
it's like it's going to attract a lot of people, I feel. So,
If you get
and
it right.
I was going through your some of your reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. So some of them commended you for handling the matter with such a sense of humor, making it fun to read.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
what I noticed is that there were some architects or architectural students who were raving about how relevant it was to their own experiences. So,
Yes, yes, truly, truly, yes.
so how does it make you feel? I'm sure you have gone through your reviews as well. I don't think any author can, escape that. So how is these kind of feedbacks make you feel?
Yeah, I think students make me very happy. And it was like, somebody speaking on their behalf. So I actually opened up their heart out, and I could have the courage. These things need a lot of courage. And you'll be very surprised to note that quite many people called me to say, "My goodness, you have revealed so much about profession." But then that's my job as an author. When I'm having a pen in my hand, I'm a different person. So the students were very happy, and they actually gave very good reviews. They called me and they said, "All that we wanted to say, you have said, sir. Wonderful job done." And so did the teachers, and so did the people who worked in the colleges, and so did the architects. I mean, everybody was saying like, "Wow, that we have a person now who is talking about what we are going through, what we are
Yeah,
undergoing actually."
yeah, because some of the parts were not all that happy and all.
Yeah,
If you
yeah, sure.
read it, take a look
Yeah,
at it from all angles, you
yes,
see certain
sure.
failures or however you
Yeah,
want to put it that are not so glamorous part of your job. So,
true.
did everybody take that well that you're putting those not glamorous part out for the world to see?
I don't think so. People did not like it. Not many people liked it, and they called me to say that I have gone beyond the limit of exposing the profession, not in a very right way. But that's okay. I mean, I'm an author, so I have my own liberty. I have my own right of expression, and I did it.
But I
Yes,
guess
it
you
is.
cannot go for universal approval for anything.
No,
So
not
there
at
were
all.
bound to be something. But I like
They
that
must.
aspect of the book that it felt very real because in fiction it's either very glum, showing the harsh realities,
Yes,
or it's very light and fluffy. This one
quite
has
right.
a good balance of it about the fun parts, not so fun parts, the
Yeah.
difficult parts, everything, and everything is handled quite well. So,
Very nice. Thank you very much, Devdata.
what
Yes.
are your what is if you were to give one advice, just one advice to the budding architects, what would you tell them?
To budding architects,
Yes.
I would say that make buildings, make beautiful buildings, but don't write. Well, that was just a joke. I mean,
Architects can be writers. You have proved that, right?
yeah, yeah, I know. Well, to be very serious, if I have to give advice to the young architects, it should be that one should build buildings with passion. One cannot build buildings by technique, by softwares, by practicality. One must make buildings with passion, by imbuing life in them or imbuing life in whatever things they do. So if we do that, I think everybody can be a very concerned architect.
Okay, and what is your one advice to budding authors?
Um, I spoke that before. I'll speak again. Uh, I think in writing, one thing which I learned over the years after five, six books and the very, very success of this book is make it simple. Whatever it is, make it simple. If it's the simplicity which will attract, which will catch, which is bound to be, uh, which is bound to associate oneself. So the catchword is write, make it simple.
So we have talked about your hidden talents as a guitarist, singer, as a painter. But and do you personally read a lot of books? And
Yes,
if so, what books would I find on your bedside table today?
I read a lot, and these days I'm reading Ashwin Sanghi, Chanakya's Chant, and I like that thrill which he writes, and he's one of my most favorite authors. Uh, uh, it also depends on what is my next mood, what I'm planning next. So based on that relevant things, I pick up those books.
Okay, so it's time. We are currently running a little bit short on time, so we have to wrap up. Before we say goodbye for the day, tell us what's next from you. Should we expect more fictions from you? Should we expect more non-fictions from you? Maybe another poetry book after 20 years?
Um, I think what is coming next is fiction. It's beautiful. I can't do without architecture. Whatever I may do, architecture has to touch in. So it's a life of an architect, lives of architect, and lives of buildings. So I'm going to give you some surprise, but these things will remain intact. These three entities will remain intact. And I promise you some very nice reading, simple reading, interesting reading.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Sangeet, for joining us today. It was nice
Thank you very
talking to
much.
you. And to
Thank
our
Devda.
viewers, if you have enjoyed our show today, our broadcast show today, then you can find Mr. Sangeet's website details and buy link for Castles in the Air in the video itself. Go ahead, buy the book now. Okay, and we'll see you later on. Bye.